Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. This season, we're embarking on a journey of personal growth and reflection as we explore the depths of the human experience. We'll use our good and bad experiences, friendship, and passions to inspire thought provoking conversation and soul driven advice to better help you create a life worth living and step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch.
Okay, so I just want to say, well, first of all, hello, Tracy.
Hi, Amy. What do you want to say?
I want to say that this is not a Zoom
I
background.
know. Look at you move and it
This
still exists.
and still exists and not disappear. No, I am in a hotel.
Ooh. And not just for your typical reason, right? Like this actually has to deal with the topic of what we're going to talk about today too. Like in a way of like
Yes,
so many synchronicities lined up with the eclipse in our last conversation this past week.
it really did. And in our last conversation, I can't remember which one of us said it first, Tracy, but whoever said it first was like, I just feel like I need a reset. And then the other one was just like, yes, synchronicity. It's exactly what I've been thinking about. And even though this was already lined up, I hadn't considered this a reset moment. It was more just like maybe a niche reset for my writing.
Mm-hmm.
But once we delved into that conversation, and then throughout the last week, sort of continued the conversation of the reset through social media. It was confirmed through social media that apparently everyone is feeling like they need a reset. How about like where are you at right now after our conversation?
It's just it's always so striking to me how so much of my internal experiences and processes go with the natural order and flow to things or align with
Mm-hmm.
other people. Not that I think I'm leading this hugely unique human experience of mine. And maybe it's a part of spring, a new astrological season, warmer
Yeah.
weather, at least sunnier days by any means. But I've just been feeling like, okay, what our goals were before last year are no longer our goals. And even at that time, we were questioning if they were still our goals. Um, and what's on my vision board still aligns, but there's something in me it's just not quite right. And so when you said reset last week, I was like, that is what I am looking for. I'm looking for a reset.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
what does
think
it mean to you? Like, what do you envision when?
that's a really good question. And I feel as if I'm open to finding out. I think that, one of the things, first of all, when you put yourself in a completely different environment, it kind of gets things flowing. And so once we had had the conversation about the reset, I started thinking about this time at the hotel. And while it 100% is focused on writing, I don't know about anyone out there. I cannot write for 8 hours a day. I can I can write
You're
for
not Stephen King?
no. Sometimes I can be at the computer writing for 2 hours, but
Hmm.
then I have to get up and do something different before I can sit back down and write some more.
Sure.
So in those moments of getting up and doing something different, now all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is my planning session, right? Instead of sort of like that brainstorming planning session for the book, which that's already done.
Hmm.
Now it's the writing portion. Now I'm doing the planning, brainstorming session for how I do want to feel, how I do want to move in my life, how I do want to go forward, who I want to be, what I want to do, just all those things. And like I said, I'm open to figuring this out. I'm open to what comes up. I literally have 3 tarot decks with me.
I was just gonna ask, is there gonna be any tarot during all of this, during your breaks?
Oh,
How
honey,
are we
there's going
gonna
to be
go
so
about this?
much tarot. I have crystals. I have tarot. I have essential oils. I have like I I I I don't know. Plus, here's the other funny thing. Water to me, I am such a water person. And I don't have my big three are not in water. However, I have a bajillion planets in Scorpio,
And
and
aren't all of your children Scorpios?
two are Scorpios. One's an Aquarius, so two are water,
He's a
and one's
water
the water
bearer.
bearer. But so there's a pool here, and I feel like what a lovely sort of how reset in itself
Like
to
a
be
little
like,
nurturing.
let me just dive into this water, slough off this stagnancy, right, that I'm feeling, and then begin this weekend,
Oh
this
God, now I
long
want to find a
weekend.
pool.
Yeah, yeah,
That's such a beautiful image to just think of, like, not only resetting but washing away what's no longer working, right? Like sloughing off
yes,
what all the old, um,
yeah,
starting out all clean and shiny and new.
yeah, I know. I think part of it too, sometimes it can be so easy to accept our feelings of discomfort, of something's not right, of I'm not feeling enthusiastic, I'm not engaged. And it's almost as if we tamp them down, ignore them, think, well, something will turn around soon. And I also feel that you and I are right now really trying to not ignore that discomfort.
Well, and it's a reset is an active process. There can be things that make it something you more just kind of go with the flow with, if there's a lot of change in your life that you didn't have a say in. But
Mm-hmm.
you can still, stick your feet in the mud, drag your heels and stay how you were. And when you're already feeling unenthusiastic, and disconnected from your goals, from your soul, the thought of changing that, even though the outcome will be better, it feels like so much more work than living in it.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I'm constantly reminding myself based on like the most depressive episode I ever had, where just I got laid off from a job, I lost my apartment, I had to move home. Every attempt to get a new job just didn't stick, didn't land, and I had never experienced that before. And what was meant to be 3 to 4 months moving back home turned into 4 years while I rebuilt my life.
Yeah.
And what that entire process taught me was not allowing myself to fall in that hole would have been less work than climbing out of the hole. Um, and so if you're feeling a reset, at least take the time and the energy to navigate why and what the outcome could be if you stay versus if you do try and push through and reset.
That's such a good point, Tracy. I don't know if I have identified why. And again, it could be as things seem to be so often with us, it could be this whole eclipse, astrological season, things leading up to that. It could also be age. It could be so many different things. And so I don't know that I have dug into the why, uh,
So
but I might.
I've been reflecting, I don't the pandemic did not have direct negative influences on my life. Lockdown did not. Some of my relationships got better, my work experience got better. It helped with my schedule. It eliminated expenses like paying for parking and gas and things like that. And none of my loved ones got so sick that they, passed or anything like that. And so I've been really challenged. And we look for the opportunities and stuff, right? Like we took it as a time to get into hobbies, to start this podcast, to do other things. I actually got more active because I very intentionally took my drive time and made it my workout time since I, was too pressed for that before. But when I was kind of reflecting, I think what it did was show me absolutely who I am not and what I'm not willing to do anymore. And
Oh,
some of my
yeah.
goals weren't in alignment with that or some of my self expectations. And part of this reset is me just acknowledging I just want a peaceful life. I want to wake up softly. I don't want an alarm. I don't want to have to rush to make breakfast and to get dressed and to get out the door. This work from home experience, I recognize it is a huge privilege that every role in the world can get. But it's such a better quality of life. But it was really hard for me to acknowledge that because it feels less ambitious to be like, I want to wear soft, comfortable clothes during the day. Right? I don't want to wake up and go, go, go. Before I used to, even though I naturally woke up early, I'd have to really push myself to work out, go for my morning walk, make breakfast, get ready, go to work. And now, like, I can do all that in the evening. Instead, I wake up slow, I journal, I listen to music. Right? I can make food when I'm hungry. I don't have to make food just because I have to get out the door. Um, and and so I think that's a huge thing for the reset with me is I'm just acknowledging a lot of stuff um that I didn't recognize I actually had a choice in and what I actually wanted, right? Like I still want to be successful. I'd still like to make more money. But I want a soft and slow and peaceful existence.
This is hitting so true. Uh,
I
I
know you got into like meditative prayer for a second with your hands, if you can
Well,
see
that was because I was tearing up, and
it.
like the minute you said a peaceful life and I want to wake up slow and soft, I want to wake up softly. I was like, yeah, yes. But and uh the term that came to me this week, because I was thinking to myself, I want a little life. I am good with
Yes. Oh, a little life.
a little life, because there were so many years that I thought I should be having a big life. And now it's that same thing. It's soft, comfy clothes. And it's looking out the window at the birds and journaling and not having to rush and go and achieve and accomplish. And yes, there are days when perhaps it is accomplishing many things, but it's my choice.
Right?
It's what I want it to be, my choice. So if that I'm working hard, it's because I'm in the garden or painting a room or writing a book. But I agree 100%. I no longer am striving for, and I have this lovely t shirt that my mom made because her first book was I don't want much from life, I want more. However, I feel that during that time, the late 70s, that is when, and we've talked about this before, when women had very little. They couldn't even,
Yes.
I think it wasn't until the early 80s they could get a credit card on their own. So that was a different time
We
and it
just
meant
hit the
something
50th
different.
anniversary for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, so I think that that's indicative
And,
of that.
it's not that I want to receive more for doing less. They recently released a graph that showed income increasing in line with productivity. And that's no longer the case. Our income has remained stagnant
Oh, I
while
saw
our
that.
productivity has increased
Yes.
massive amounts.
Yes.
And so for me, it's kind of a return to, I'm an elder millennial, as they say, and I'm that bridge between digital and analog. I remember when you could screen your calls and people wouldn't think twice about you not answering your phone or returning a voicemail immediately. And now, if you match with a man on a dating app and don't immediately message them back, they accuse you of playing them and being disinterested when it's like, this just isn't my dating app time, my dude. Like,
So I love it. I think this is so wonderful that you're an elder millennial and I am a baby boomer,
oh,
because I am right at the end. In fact,
you feel Gen
I
X to
hate
me.
it. I might feel Gen X, but I'm definitely
You are,
not.
yeah.
I'm not though. I am in that, I'm in that time period, but I hate being lumped in that time period. But
Well,
anyways, I bridge that gap too, you know?
and it's just, it's one of those things where I've been known for my ability to anticipate,
Mhm.
prepare, somehow, prophetically know what people need to be presented and how to present it to the right audience. And
Mhm.
those are really great skills. I am finding it more rewarding and getting more noticed, or at least feeling less taken advantage of when I wait to be asked.
Tracy, that's huge.
And it's only been in that 2 week span. I think I shared that quote from that TikToker Tali D
Yeah.
last week of like, you're not incompetent, you just don't like the shit you're doing. It was kind of around then that I was like, nobody I work with views me as incompetent. So why do I feel like I am? And I think it was because I was constantly trying to stay 5, 6, 10 steps ahead of myself, nobody else,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I think part of this is just like we've talked about, I'm entering my 40s, kind of a new thing, but also I'm changing other people's expectations of me that they don't even know they have by like, I want a slower life. I want to manage expectations
Mhm.
um and that's going to be in all areas.
It is. And I think one of the things you just said, I'm changing their expectation. Did you say you're,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that for me, I have people in my life who go off old information,
Mm-hmm.
an old version of me, or what I hope to be an old version of me. And so I need to be intentional and precise. Maybe not precise, that's the wrong word, but intentional with this reset so that it's understood with everyone around me that that is what's happening and that I understand it as well. Uh,
Well, and
I,
how many of us don't leave space for people to shed what they were, to have these tiny resets in life, to take
Mhm.
on a new persona? Like that's something you and I, it's something we value for ourselves and for each other. But I even have to check myself occasionally with friends and stuff and be like, are your expectations of them just like, are you pigeonholing them or is this who they are right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
have you gotten to re-know the people in your life or kind of change how you expect them, or how you expect to experience them? And I try really hard, not to judge, right, behavior and to ask questions if I'm feeling a certain way, but everyone in my life in the past 15 years has taken on all these new roles, and so my role with them has just kind of changed.
Yes.
And now I'm seeing that as their kids get older or they get more established in their career, their marriages change and stuff like that. They're trying to get our role together to be what it was before. And so I'm craving some of that intentionality and discussion because I'm not who we were 15 years ago. I may be showing up that way in our annual check-in, kind of friendship dates and stuff like that, but I don't know if that's how I want to proceed. Um,
It's hard in family dynamics.
right?
I don't know why it is. I don't know why I immediately am the 11-year-old. I have no idea, or treat it as if I am, I would say that it's not so much my sisters, uh, but maybe once removed family members who
The people
are
you
like
don't
that.
see often as an
Yeah,
adult.
yeah, yeah, I would say that too. I I want to talk about an elephant in the room, not the hotel, um, that happened to me, and I'm wondering if it happened or has happened to you when you've wanted to do a reset. The minute I was like, this is going to be the reset, I immediately had work levels. It felt as if they tripled. It felt as if I had some meetings with people who then shared that they wanted certain deliverables at certain dates that were certainly not what I expected.
That was very pragmatic and
Yeah.
professional of you.
And then yesterday, my email, it was if it, as if an email trickster came in and just said, we're going to give her 4 or 5 times the amount of emails she normally gets, and it will be necessary email that she does need to read.
I want to know, did it change or did you change? And so now you have new eyes when you see it and a new reaction when you experience it.
Oh no, it changed.
Then I definitely, I mean, there is things, typically you see it in relationships, right? That when
Hmm.
you start to change, the other person kind of,
Yeah.
even if they don't know specifically, if it hasn't been communicated directly, right? There's like this subconscious knowing and like these attempts to drag you back.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if kind of like the universe, the email tricksters, all that kind of a test. Like, which are you going to choose,
Absolutely.
Amy?
Oh,
I don't think the universe actually tests anybody, but there is kind of like this, there's this push pull in you now where you're
hmm,
recognizing you're making a choice.
yes. And I will say, am certain it was a test. And at first, I failed the test because at first I was overwhelmed and almost at a standstill, thinking I had to do two really big deliverables and not really feeling great about how I was even going to do it. And on top of that, we also had just gotten Windows, and there was still things that needed to be done in the house that felt
Yeah,
I
you
yeah.
really
So
timed this reset with a lot of your home stewardship, your work commitments,
yes,
a lot of things
yes, and
all at
so
this. Yeah.
it did feel like a test. But then today, I knew that if I didn't do some deep focus work, that I was going to bring that burden, and whether it was self-made or not, I was going to bring that burden with me to the hotel,
Hmm.
and that potentially it could disrupt my writing. And I brought my work computer as well. Tracy already yelled at me, but anyways, because
I encourage you not to turn it on.
right, I thought I would potentially have to do work. Now I do have to do one little thing, but that's fine. But this morning, what happened was I finally tackled the email, figured out exactly where the priorities were, did the first thing, got everything done with it. And then the second deliverable, I got to a point where I was in such a rhythm and a flow. It's nearly finished. And I don't actually have to have it done until not next week, oh, until a week from
So,
tomorrow. And
another
I'm
way to
almost
look at it,
done.
instead of the universe testing you, the universe, by, all these things aligning, the synchronicities and you being in flow with the collective that's upgrading, or however, us hippie woo-woo girls want to say it, instead of a test, you were given the motivation of this new reset you want to do, and that's where your heart lives. That helped get you through the difficult week of email hell and other things, right? Whereas had you not had this reset, maybe you would have been really challenged to accomplish those things and felt worse about your position. And like you said, we were both in a kind of a place of like, what's next? What do I want, right?
Yeah,
And had you not already kind of like taken this inspired action to have this planned, you don't know what your soul plan's going to be. You haven't figured out what you're going to do,
right.
but you have set aside the time and a location and a place to do it.
I love that, Tracy, because I do feel that feels right to me, that the universe was like, okay, you need a little motivation so you can get through this. And also, it's another sort of like, ding, this isn't really what you want your days to be like, just mired in email and trying to get things done. So
And you're
it
at a point in
was,
your career where you don't have to fix a process. You have to decide where you're going to go, right?
yeah.
Like,
Although the funny thing is I always want to not fix a process, but I
improve.
still want to improve processes.
Yeah.
But my idea of improving them is making them more streamlined and less work for me.
I know isn't it like Bill Gates or someone like that that's like, I always hire a lazy man to do the job. They're very efficient. They'll figure it out real quick how to do it
Oh,
for less money, less time, less people,
that's funny. Well, what
right?
about you? Has resistance come up for you this week?
I've become aware of what I wouldn't have classified as resistance before. I think I'm going to allow myself to. Um, you know this a little
Hmm.
bit. So the morning of the eclipse, I decided to do some tarot. There's competing beliefs out there about whether or not to do any sort of medical physical practices during the eclipse, but I bought some new tarot cards a month ago and hadn't had a chance to work with them because of everything else going on in my life. And I was like, you know what? We're feeling it. We'll try it. We won't push it. We'll see what's going on. And so in setting everything up, I have a notebook. I write all my tarot readings in, or I try and write them all in. And when looking for a blank page, I kind of some stuff caught my eye. And so I started paging through and reading some stuff. And there were a lot of past readings, and I'm talking even pre-2020, like some of my earliest readings, but definitely in the past 2, 3 years of things that felt really in line, like what we've been talking about, and readings that felt like, wow, like this is my future here in the cards, or this is exactly what I'm thinking, or, clearly I'm biased in doing my own readings, but it really resonated at the time. And I remembered how powerful it felt in those moments reading it. And then I just felt like these waves of disappointment of, well, why didn't you do anything with it? Why didn't it happen? Why did,
Mm.
and all this other stuff. And so I just kind of, out to the ether was like, gosh, why haven't I gotten anything done? And I got that little response back, and I said, because you need to rest. And Amy had like the best friend response of, Jesus, what kind of rest does she need already? Like, I got like a really supportive friend text that made me laugh and was great. But at the same time, it was just like this voice in my head, like assuring me that the rest I think I had I wasn't productive last year, but I also wasn't super restful. I had a month-long medical leave. Was that enough? Right? Like I had all this stuff that I'm not allowing to give myself credit for what my body still needs because I'm aware of how I haven't shown up in life or how I haven't fulfilled promises or um, ideas, goals to myself or to others, and that everything's been, oh, I've been in pain, or oh, I had these surgeries, oh, I have this recovery. And this recent bout of grief, as productive as, I shared the sadness and the grief made me over the past month, I've also rested like I haven't rested in a long time. I've been sleeping deeper than I usually do,
Oh,
and
that's
I'm
wonderful.
actually reading books for fun, not just nonfiction. And that's really, so I realized, for me, this reset is acknowledging my body still needs rest, my mind still needs rest. I still need, there are like 7 different types of rest, right? And so clearly I'm not getting one of them.
Yeah.
Um, but
Or
I've realized
potentially
there's,
more.
right? There's like this hierarchy for me that I'm finally recognizing that I've been resisting. I've been trying to do it all, and I need to realize
Yeah.
it is a top-down structure that my first focus still has to be my body and my health. That yeah, it's been 6 months since my surgery, but only 3 of those months have been pain free of what the surgery was meant for, right? That my body is still trying to figure out this new body of ours, right? And then the next thing from there is my home stewardship. That last year I wasn't able to do anything. I didn't even clean a floor, right? And there's a lot of stuff I both want to do and need to do. And to finally feel rested enough to do those things without feeling like I'm trading energy or pain from another day
Yeah.
feels kind of huge. And I've noticed this change, and especially as I started reading more for fun and waking up slow. And if I wake up and don't want to get out of bed, I don't push myself, kind of a thing. I'm noticing my mind is waking up in ways that it wasn't before, that my spiritual connection and wanting to do tarot cards is waking up in ways it wasn't really before. And so I think just last year was such a drain on me that I have to recognize the productivity was in achieving that surgery, right? That I was productive last year. I know this is probably, I talk about this a lot on the show, but that was so huge for me, but it's so hard that I didn't do anything else and how passive it actually feels in the moment. And so my resistance has been like, no, you have done a lot.
Yeah.
And you've
Yeah.
continued to try and do other things, and that's why you feel this way. But to just You know, as silly as it is, I've never really been a romance book fan, but because of the Bridgerton show, I got into the Bridgerton books digitally.
Yes.
And so because they're digital, that's also been a motivator because Libby will snatch them back from you whether you read them or not. I haven't yet had a library employee knock on my door and inform me I'm late. There's a lot of emails I ignore, that's for sure. But those digital books, but it's been so fun to get engrossed into something so silly, and it's something a lot of people are also reading and watching, and so it's also been a way to connect. Whereas I think some of the stuff my goal was to read stuff on my to be read cart last year, and so it just became a task, right? Like I talked about that
Yes.
a lot last year. My resistance was everything just felt like a task, and um I just felt unmotivated to do it. And so like I've just eliminated the pressure behind it and just kind of flowing, and things don't feel like a task anymore. And then I feel more so my resistance has just been to like acknowledge where the resistance was before and stop doing those things.
I love it because it sounds as if you got the resistance and the resistance, the answer to the resistance or the acknowledgement, and then sort of then an answer to it and the confirmation that this is the right thing that you're doing. It's like it's all in one. I love that. And I guess I did too in a way with the whole work thing that it was and then it was oh like
I
that.
I also have to recognize that like there have been some, we've talked a lot about how I've never been good at setting goals that are more than a year out. And even
Yeah.
when I've started like a program for a graduate degree or something else, it's still really fluid and flexible in my mind. And I don't tell a lot of people because I don't care if I finish, right? Like life can change. And last year, I didn't really move forward on any of those. And so while I've never felt a ticking clock, I did recognize like, oh, you didn't do anything. Oh, who are you now? What are those goals now? And I had a not a soul contract, soul regression. Someone went to like the Akashic Records, that kind of a reading. A soul retrieval. That's what I
Retrieval.
did. I did a
Yeah.
soul
Hmm.
retrieval and Akashic Records reading in 2020. I got introduced to TikTok or finally avoided the resistance to that and got on that metaphysical side real quick. And one of the things she gave me was that she foresaw she could see two paths really clear for me for the future. One, marriage and babies and family and, a lot of success. And then one where I travel. And this is why I hate people who do future readings because not that I felt like I had to do either of those or that that was leading me, but I felt like whatever I did, I'd be losing the other um
Hmm.
because I didn't have anything in front of me, and so it felt like whatever I was working to I was going to be making a choice, right? That if I started, really focusing on travel, am I giving up the family stuff? And I knew logically that didn't make sense, right? People with babies travel, right? Like you could do anything, but just like how it
It was
kind of
kind of presented like two
it
paths.
presented as two
Yeah.
paths, and it's
Yeah.
something I have to say it resonated with me as something I had kind of in tuned for myself as well, that I have like these two paths, but I've never felt super strongly about either of them. So I've never made a choice. I've been hesitant to make a choice. And at the same time, I had a tarot card reader once. I asked her, when am I going to find my tribe? Because that was really common in 2014, that language for
Hmm.
friends. But like,
Yeah.
when was I going to find my core friend group, the people that I really connected with and did things with? Because I have a ton of friends and people I love and that like me, but I'm not in their primary circle, right? Their families are. And I'm searching for that connection that we're more on similar paths. And she said that I never would, that my path is a significant other that really resonates and connects and provides
Mm-hmm.
that for me, that it won't be
Mm-hmm.
a loss, but it's more one person and not many. And so again, something that just kind of like, oh, right? Like you
Yeah.
want one thing, you're told it's going to present it another, and then it kind of makes you start to look at interactions or plan your life a certain way.
Yeah.
But so I've just started looking at some of my goals and some things, and there's stuff I've been hesitant to be like, I am not going to pursue that path because it felt so definitive. And now, like, now that I know I want peace, now that I know I want this soft life, I'm more comfortable being like, I'm not going to actively pursue it. I'm not going to close the door, but
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm feeling more and more like a confirmation of just live your life, right? Just what you're doing now. If this is what you do between now and the end of your time, it will still be a good life. Like stop
I
trying to make
love
one,
that.
right? Like stop
Yes.
trying to make one or the other work or have all these tons of goals, right? Like instead, like maybe I'll wake up one day and want to be super ambitious and have a hard life or a fast life or, a different
Yeah.
adjective life. But right now, this peaceful, just waking up and being okay reading a book all day life, I am so okay with that.
So I do want to just make that clear what you said. Maybe one day I'll wake up and I will want an active life and an achieving life, or well, whatever term you used. And I do, that is okay. You can have reset after reset after reset, and it doesn't make one reset better than the other. It's just where you are in your life at that given time. And I think we have to acknowledge that we are human beings and we change. And change is good. Change is life. I mean, that
And
is it.
I want to recognize the privilege we both kind of have, although you're going to kind of come out of it shortly with retirement, of nobody's going to question me when I say I want a peaceful life. Very
Yeah.
few people in my life are going to push back. If you're 20 years old, you're going to have a whole host of people giving you their opinion on what kind of life you should have and how dare, like how can you possibly say something so concretely or know that, or you'll want
Yeah.
something different when you're older. I mean, I know in my early 30s, I was on a C-suite track.
Mhm.
I was on the way to be an operational division manager, manager, chief, whatever, VP, and all that. And I liked it because I felt useful and I felt good. But when I stepped back and shared that goal with people, people were like, "Oh no, don't do that." People who are older than me who had tried that and gotten burnt out, right? And so now I had those voices in my head of like, "Do I want that?" And I did. I did want it at the time. I wasn't trying to achieve for anybody, and so I recognize right now, like when I tell people my age and older, oh, I just want a soft life, they're all gonna be like, oh, that sounds so nice.
Right?
But 20 years ago, that would not have been my reaction that I received.
Yeah.
I would have been
Yeah.
called lazy. I had a friend once who she's like, I just want a life of relaxing. And I was only 5 years older than her at the time. She's 25 maybe. And I just like in my head remember judging her and be like, oh, like already? Like, oh, you and your fiance have given up. Like, oh, you have 75 years in front of you and you just want a life of relaxing. And now I'm like, she knew what she was talking about. She
She
knew herself so well at 25. I am so goddamn jealous.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
Okay. I wanted to, we only have like 2 minutes left in the show. I wanted to hear so much more though about, just because we do have the age difference, what prior resets have looked like for you if you've consciously have gone
Oh,
through them before.
I've gone
Um,
through so many resets, but it would be difficult to pluck them out and really
okay.
look at them. Perhaps another episode. Well, this will continue because I'd love to do like an after party or something. I don't know.
I love that. Okay, well, we'll keep thinking about that. But if this episode spoke to your soul, please share it with a friend. And if you have time, give us some love on your preferred platform with the rate, review, and subscribe. You can also reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com. And if you know what episode you want us to do next, let us know. Because
That would be wonderful.
we're clearly still hitting the restart button.
We hope you have a bright and beautiful day.